If you've heard the words, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, you got a story. On today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Well, hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 229. I hope you guys are having a great day. So, it is, God, I love my job. I really do. And no sarcasm detected in that statement. It's just, you wake up on Monday and you're thinking one thing, and by Thursday, life's gotten really interesting. And constant things happening. So I'll let you guys know about it a bit later. But, for you guys who were paying attention to the little slides that come in as, the title page, all right, we're going to discuss squatters, and we're going to discuss tenancies, and we're going to discuss the myth that is squatters' rights and how California sucks. We're also going to be talking about our numbers and everything else, but, pretty standard episode. Hold on for a second. And just for the record, if you guys think I actually drink Starbucks, no, we just got a bunch of Starbucks cups around here. So vendor came in earlier this month, brought coffee, got a couple sleeves of Starbucks cups, and we're frugal around here, and we'll happily use any other free stuff we got floating around. Like, let's see if I can find it. This free pen came in a little gift basket from a vendor earlier this week, and it's a really nice little basket, had some pens and a candle that smells and all sorts of good stuff in it, and a lot of chocolate that actually melted in the FedEx truck. So we've been wiping off the pins that are actually really, for as cheap as this thing feels, I love the way it handles. Reminds me of a couple girls I used to date. But they're sticky, like a couple girls I used to date. Anyways, so we've been wiping them off and using the pins, and I have no idea why pins became a theme this week, but like the wife bought a bunch of pins and then was test driving them and giving me the leftovers. The office is ordering new pins because the old ProStar ones that we ordered just don't work too well. And it's the little things in life, little things like pins. So, all right. So what's going on in the wide world of real estate? Well, we are still having that whole Compass and EXP and everything else fight going on, and now they're including Zillow. Remember, Compass is a very large company, and they are really desperately trying to move into the luxury market, and they want to dominate the luxury market. So their entire branding is, we are the only people you need to come to for a luxury home, because we have all the buyers. You don't want to hang out with those riffraffs over on the MLS. You want our curated, customized, perfect, pretty people, millionaires, us, the 1%. We the agent to the 1%. We're rich, and we know it. So anyways, and they've been trying to do basically pocket listings, right? And the pocket listing is like, hey, we're just not going to let anybody know about this, we're just going to sell it. Now, I'm having sort of that same situation today, except unlike that, I am actually marketing, all right? And that is going to hit the MLS today. I have a listing, which is coming up I was directed by my seller to contact two individuals. And one of the individuals has written an offer. Well, it looks like we're going to accept it and get it under contract. At the same time, I'm actually putting it on the market. Is that considered a pocket listing? Well, we're within the 24 hours. So probably really can't consider that. So anyways, here we go out. Let's run the game. With Compass holding off on the keeping their listings back, Zillow has decided we're not going to show any of your listings now. Zillow has an Achilles heel. Zillow, back when they decided that, hey, why we want to be the Amazon of real estate, went and got a broker's license for every 50 state. All right. So they have to play the game a little bit different. They actually have to play the game like me and ProStar do, which means we can't steer customers away from brokerages. And that's what Zillow's stating they're going to do. So this is an attorney question. We'll have to have the attorneys fight this one out. All right. And honestly, the people who should be fighting this out is the MLSs through NAR. But we all know how that conversation goes. So where is this going to go? I don't know. I'm not playing in the luxury market. I don't anticipate playing in the luxury market. I got a old Facebook post where I went and I did a luxury home tour, and they had this huge walk-in wine storage refrigerator. It had glass fronts and this and that, and so you could show off all your wine to your other people. And all I could think of was, my God, I could put a lot of guns in here. Yes, Ray Dawson. I am too redneck for luxury. So anyways, so we'll just see how that one plays out. Other thing, we got a little bit Comfort Report numbers coming on. Definitely moving into the seller's market, the buyer's market. The CMI drop was 2.7%. You know that CMI number that I'm always rattling off, all right, is a net negative from last week, all right? The week before that, it was down 2.5%. So these are percent, not the numbers itself. So we definitely have that downward trend going on right now. So, from a seller standpoint, list early, list often, be the best house on the block, all right? And don't say no. I'm just a house that can't say no. So other thing we got going on, let's just hit the numbers and I'll just show you real quick, all right? So bonk. There's our numbers for June 25th, 2025. Actives this week are 25,835, down 26. Our new listings were 1,973, up 148. Contracts were at 2,060, down 61. Our closings were 1,499, and coming soon to an MLS near you is 479 new listings. Our supply has risen to 107.5 on the Comfort Report, and demand has fallen to 77.3, giving us a Comfort Report number of 71.9, considered a buyer's market. Man, I was really working that farm report voice, wasn't I? Yeah, it's what I get for watching too much Yellowstone. All right, so looking at our areas, there's Paradise Valley, our outlier, our rich people, our Compass listings, all right? Don't care. All right, but they actually went up 10% to 119.1. Why the jump? Why have everybody else, are they the ones who have jumped into, a seller's market? Well, it's because of basically stocks and crypto. When the rich buy a house, they just sell some assets and pick up a new asset, their house. They don't have to get loans and they don't have to run around on the ground. So they're actually doing pretty good right now in the crypto market because of a falling dollar. And the stock market, you guys may have not have noticed it because it's amazing how the news quits talking about it, as for all the doom gloom, the market is falling. Well, we've rebounded and we're coming back quite nicely. So they're doing very well for themselves. But everybody else has fallen, except technically for Mesa and Surprise. And Surprise, the only one is showing no change. Mesa actually shows a little bit of downward change, but it's not enough to actually be more than a percentage point and reflect on this chart, right? But our remaining sellers markets, and that's arguable whether or not these are seller markets, are Paradise Valley, don't care, Fountain Hills, and Avondale. Right? Avondale is not even really a seller's market. It's right there in the bubble. Chandler is a balanced market of 109.3, also very strong balanced market for a seller, but not great. And then we have this huge trance drop right down to Glendale, Mesa, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Gilbert. All right, those are our balanced markets right now. All right, and they're all falling. All right, our sellers markets are Cave Creek, Tempe, Peoria, Goodyear, Surprise, Queen Creek, Maricopa, and Buckeye. All right, Maricopa fell. Remember, they've been rising for a bit. They surpassed Buckeye, but they did come down a bit month over month, but not as bad as Buckeye. So Buckeye, I don't call 7% monthly a free fall, but it is definitely that sinking sensation when the roller coaster suddenly goes like that. So what does this mean to you? If you can buy, all right, this is not a bad market to be buying into. You get a lender who's going to qualify you for a loan, and you can make that loan payment, and you can get into something you really like. And then if the rates ever do change, all right, we had some really strong economic numbers come out this week. All right, still not doing anything with the 10-year bond, but the 10-year bond is being influenced more with the value of the dollar dropping. Because remember, 10-year bonds get paid back in bonds or in dollars, right? So if your dollar is dropping a certain percentage point year over year, you need that to reflect in positive returns on your 10-year bonds. It's a lot more complicated than people think, right? And I'm literally have hit that point is I don't care what the interest rate is today. All right. Big strategic. Yeah, but I'm not going to sit there and sweat going, oh my God, well, real estate market isn't going to kick up until we hit 5%. So I'm just going to take the rest of the year off. No, we're not going to do that. All right. I made a mistake like that many years ago. Okay. When we had no inventory, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, we have no inventory. I might as well go get a day job. It wasn't that we didn't have inventory, is that our numbers were going so fast. The tub never had a chance to full. That's me. That's on me. I misjudged that market because I was looking at a very limited scope of information, which is why I have charts and which is why I do this podcast. Not so much for you, but for me. It makes me look at the numbers every week and try to anticipate what's going on. So you guys are just watching it for the entertainment value, I'm sure. I mean, I know all my viewers, all 3 of you, 4, all right? And I know you all have houses because I put most of you in your house. All right. So you need to tell your friends, hey, watch Ray. Okay. Real estate agent to the middle class, All right. So that face I just gave you is me forgetting my shoulder's still dicked up. So every time I reach out for something, it likes to remind me. It's like, hey, boss, we're not doing this. I'm like, it's too late. I'm making you. So let's talk about squatters. All right. You guys remember last week, I was talking a little bit. I showed you the pictures. All right. And I'm new listing that just popped up, the one I was discussing earlier. Well, this person is not technically a squatter. They're a guest. They're living in the property. All right. And the owner has allowed them to do that. They're not paying rent. It's just like, hey, you can live here for a while. Well, now the owner needs to sell. And we've seen this scenario, okay, where the person who's sitting there, even though this person was told back in February, hey, the house is getting sold this year, it's really important for you to decide where you're going to go. You know how people put things off? Like that weird little spot you have underneath your arm that you decide not to point out to the doctor or go schedule a dermatology appointment, right? You can't ignore these things, right? It's going to pop up. So after talking over with my client, what we're going to do is she has notified them, but we're going to make it formal, okay? And I'm going to issue them basically a 30-day notice. All right, 30-day notice is that whatever relationship they have, whatever verbal agreement we have, you got 30 days left from today. And we're actually giving them a little bit more days, but it's time to put up. This is a relatively harsh, it's not really harsh, it's just very formal. And the reason why you have to get very formal in these cases is to document the fact that there is no misunderstanding. You were notified on this date. Here's your signature on a piece of paper. Or here's, me recording somehow that I handed you the paper. Or here's the certified letter. Or here's whatever it is. All right, you're being notified. All right, and that brings it into the legal side of the house. All right, for every person you hear, like when we were moving out the squatter of South Mountain property, the people around her kept saying, well, she was only told 3 days ago. She was only told 3 days ago. All right, and I kept telling her, no, she's known about this for quite some time. In fact, her attorney said she agreed to be out on the 31st. All right. There is no, I didn't know kind of routine. And it's really fascinating how many times, I've been in a couple eviction courts before. All right. Sometimes just to watch, an interested observer, sometimes actually as an expert witness. But, just sitting there and going, oh, well, they didn't tell me. Well, is this your piece of, is this the notice you received? Is that your signature? Yeah, but they didn't tell me what it meant. Can you read, Mr. Smith? Of course I can read. Okay, you were notified. There's, and there's no, and it's really, it's like that, the person who sits there and goes, no, this time, stop it. Oh, I didn't mean it. I thought you meant it for real. All right. Piece of paper makes it real. I really hate going about that route, and I'm going to see what I can do about finding these people a place to live and stuff like that. Because even though Jessica says I can't save the world, I just can't help myself. You guys need help. You really do. I read your Facebook's page. You guys are all a hot mess. Like, I'm not going to go out there and tell you to get Jesus in your life or anything like that, but you might want to read some Jordan Peterson or something like that, or Jocko, or I don't know, Jung, something. Get yourself some guidance. But so yeah, that's the process on that. So if you wind up in a situation where you have a piece of property and you have somebody who's in there and you don't want in there, you need to start formally notifying me, hey, I don't want you here. All right. That whole concept of squatters' rights and adverse possession. Okay, squatters' rights come out of California. Okay, where the courts lean towards whatever the person who's declaring themselves as a tenant. We're going to lean to them being right, and it's the landlord and the owner who has the responsibility to prove to the courts that what the tenant is saying is wrong and incorrect. That's their default setting. All right, so the burden of proof is on the landlord. And squatters take advantage of this. All right, and they will move into a place and they'll go, oh no, I have tenancy. All right, the cops showing up are not going to enforce what they consider a civil matter. All right, that's what the constable's for. All right, but to get the constable on board, you have to go out there and go through a justice of the peace and get a writ. All right, and then you take the writ to the constable, and the constable goes out there and says, okay, now it's time for you to leave. Right? Still a lot of process. And if you can give the justice of the peace any reason to kick this over to a real court, they'll be happy to clear you off their docket. There, gone. Okay. So in the case of the South Mountain property, she made a little squawk about adverse possession, right? And basically said she'd been there since 2009, which is really interesting because, current owners did not own the place in 2009 and she had not filed the claim or anything like that. So, well, she didn't live in there in 2009. All right. It would have come out in court, but then you have to go to court and get them to perjure themselves on the stand. It's not like any judge out there is ever going to lock anybody up for perjuring themselves on the stand. All right. So, it's worth it to them to play it out. Same thing. It sort of sucks that we live in this world where we have to go ugly early. All right. But sometimes it's like, I just can't give you the opening. All right. I want to give you all the time in the world. And I'm even going to give you the benefit of doubt. All right. Going, you've tried. All right. But it's a really soft rental market right now. It is easy to find rentals. I got 3. Okay, ProStar's got 3 that these people should be able to afford. All right, it's just a matter of putting in the application. All right. But, there's other things to do and, whatever's on TV tonight and whatever the dramatic thing is happening in your life that keeps you away from adulting for a couple hours. All right, I understand. Okay, I was there once myself. Occasionally I'm there. I'd like to visit, my childish adolescent behavior. All right, but you can't live there. All right, adulting's hard. That's why we don't let kids do it. All right, but we all have to do it. All right, myriad lists of things we do: death, taxes, adulting. Watching children and pets around water. Not driving into anything flooded. All right, working our circles, reaching out to people, especially we haven't talked to them in a while, making sure everybody's okay. All right, and going forth into the weekend and making it a great one. And I'll talk to you guys later.